Hello, I'm Kimberly, and welcome to the weekend edition of the Native News Update. It's Friday, June 1st, and many of the stories you will hear here can be found at IndianCountryNews.com. And here's the news for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. House Democrats on the Natural Resources Committee have called on the committee's Republican leadership to hold oversight hearings based on the reporting in the New York Times in May that found the rate of sexual assault of Native American women is more than twice the national average and even greater in rural Alaskan villages. In a letter, Representatives Edward Markey of Massachusetts and Dan Boren of Oklahoma said that they were extremely concerned that accountability for violent crimes in Indian country may be decreasing as Native women continue to be victims of sexual assault at alarming rates. They called on Representative Doc Hastings, chairman of the committee, to bring this issue to the national spotlight by convening oversight hearings. Spencer Patterson, a spokesman for the committee, said that Hastings was reviewing the request. The Winnebago Tribe in Nebraska has joined with Omaha-based charitable group headed by Susie Buffett to develop the first Educare center on a Native reservation. Tribal leaders and educators broke ground May 30th on the $10 million facility, which will serve nearly 200 infants, toddlers, and preschoolers when it opens early next year. The Buffett Early Childhood Fund is donating $5 million for design and construction of the Educare Center, with the tribe raising the rest of the money. Susie Buffett, the daughter of famed Omaha investor Warren Buffett, and her foundation have helped launch more than a dozen Educare centers in large cities around the country. Research shows that low-income students often start school less prepared when their peers from middle-class and affluent families, leaving at-risk students struggling to catch up. Educare focuses on narrowing that achievement gap through innovative teaching techniques and through offering mentoring and support to families. The Winnebago Educare program also will incorporate the tribe's culture and values. American Indian tribes authorized to triple the amount of time tribal members can spend in jail say they've challenged by a lack of funding. The increase in tribal courts sentencing authority from 1 year to 3 years for a single crime came 2 years ago under the Federal Tribal Law and Order Act. But a U.S. Government Accountability Office report released on May 30th showed that none of the 109 tribes who responded to a survey about the sentencing increase were taking advantage of it. Nearly all of those tribes said that they need more money and technical help from the federal government to provide public defenders, establish or update criminal codes, and have sufficiently trained judges as the law requires. Though the enhanced sentencing isn't mandatory for tribes, the report shows 36 of the tribes surveyed are working toward the new authority. Another 34 tribes were unsure whether they would go in that direction, while 31 said that they had no plans to do so. Troy Ide, chairman of the Indian Law and Order Commission, born out of the Tribal Law and Order Act, said tribes across the country are exploring the authority, but it will take time to get all the elements in place if that's the path that they choose. The journey from Ocmulgee Mounds in Georgia to the city of Ocmulgee is marked by stories of tragedy and loss, but also pride and triumph for the Muscogee people. John Beaver and Justin Giles of the future Muscogee Creek Nation Museum will be bringing those stories to light as they trek some 1,080 miles for the tribe's first Okmulgee to Ocmulgee Trail of Cheers bicycle tour. Beaver will be the cyclist and Giles will be filming and blogging along the way during the 3-week tour, which starts June 2nd and is slated to end June 23rd. The trip symbolically follows the removal of the Creeks from the southeast in the 1830s to Indian Territory, but begins long before that at the Okmulgee Mounds area, which the Creek people settled around 900. Today it is the site of the Okmulgee National Monument in Macon, Georgia. The Mississippian culture is recognized for its highly engineered ceremonial, temple, and burial mounds and Lamar pottery. Giles said the trip is focused on reasserting a cultural presence in the area. Beaver said they envision the museum as an opportunity for people to learn history a whole new way through activities such as the bike tour, which could become a yearly event. After a ceremony at the Okmulgee National Monument with the National Park Service and tribal leaders, they will travel portions of the old federal road to Fort Mitchell, Alabama, which Giles describes as the former corralling point for the Creek removal. Betty Gerber, chairwoman for the Museum Oversight Committee, said the people mistakenly believe that only the Cherokee took part in the Trail of Tears. Gerber has read the Creek accounts of the experience in archived letters discussing the politics of the time and the emotional state of those on the trip. The Creek ride is similar to the Cherokee Nation Trail of Tears bike tour, which also takes place this month. Partnering with the tribe on the project are the National Park Service, the Alabama Historic Commission, the Historic Chattahoochee Commission, the Fort Gibson Historic Site, the National Museum of the American Indian, American for Indian Opportunity, and Let's Move. For more information on the museum, you can visit MuscogeeNationMuseum.org. And to follow the bike tour, you can visit the blog Okmulgee2Okmulgee.com. Country Music Hall of Fame member Loretta Lynn is taking her life story to Broadway, and she has tapped film and TV actress Zooey Deschanel to play her on stage. Lynn unveiled plans for a musical adaptation of Coal Miner's Daughter during a Grand Ole Opry show at the Ryman Auditorium on May 10th. The announcement mirrored the way Lynn invited actress Spacek on the Opry stage in 1979 to reveal that Spacek would play her in the upcoming film. Spacek later won an Academy Award for her portrayal of Lynn. Deschanel, the star and producer of the Fox comedy New Girl, emerged in a short vintage-inspired white dress. She grabbed Lynn's hand, and together they sang Coal Miner's Daughter. Coal Miner's Daughter was a #1 hit for Lynn in 1970 that she wrote about growing up as one of 8 children in rural Kentucky. It became the title of her 1976 autobiography and the basis of the 1980 movie starring Sissy Spacek, which traces Lynn's rise from the humble beginnings into one of country music's most beloved singers. And that's another roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. I'd like to thank you for joining me, and have a grand day.